You're listening to the WBT Podcast with Michael Lodge. Listen to all of our podcasts at www.wbtpod.com. Stay informed. Let's get started.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I am happy today's Saturday. It's a day where I can sit back, get some stuff done that I didn't get done during the week, and maybe accomplish something today. Listen, the conversation today is going to be about the Democrats and Lieutenant Colonel Vidman. I'll be right back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
So this morning I got up and I made my cup of coffee first. That's most important, right, in the whole world. Did my prayers, did my meditation. And then I opened up all the windows because last night it was in the 50s. I wanted that nice cool breeze in. We'll probably get into the 70s today. If I don't get a cold or a flu out of this, because one day it's up to 83, the next day it's down to 60-something, at night it's down to 50-something. Weather change, plays havoc on one's body, but I'm gonna think positive. Listen, so yesterday the White House did some terminations. Now, do I agree with them? I have to tell you, yeah, I do. Anytime that you have conflict within an office and you've got individuals stirring the pot, and if you've done an investigation, you wait until the end of the investigation to terminate that individual or individuals. Now, that department that he was in a week or 2 weeks ago, there was a press release out that said that department was going to be downsized anyway. So we were warned about it. We knew that it was happening. So we knew that also Vidman would probably be one of those, because that department has been wanting to. It had too many bodies in it. It was overladen with a lot of people that they really didn't need. So the White House and the individual National Security Advisor who runs that department said, okay, I'm going to clean house and I'm going to get rid of several different people. Now, Vidman was a different case. Vidman was an individual who, by the way, I want to remind you of this. Who's the boss at the White House? The President of the United States. Who sets foreign policy? The President of the United States. Who does Vidman work for? The President of the United States. Whose foreign policy is he supposed to represent and enforce or work into? The President of the United States foreign policy. Now, Vidman decided not to do that. He and his brother went wacko and decided to think, hey, our foreign policy is much better. So we're going to override the president's views, and we're going to do our own. And so that's what happened. So the president had every right from the day one when he did that to get rid of him, because he became a liability for the national security of America, NSA. In national interest, the president had to get rid of him. And for his own security, he had to get rid of him. You see, Lieutenant Vidman did not follow the commander-in-chief's wishes. So Vidman went around him and tried to create and stir up a whole pot of nonsense. And then we got this leakers, and we had people hiding in the corners, and we had all of this nonsense going on. And of course, the Democrats used it to their advantage, right? They used Vidman. Now, did Vidman tell us anything in the testimony? No, nothing whatsoever. Had he ever met the president? No. Did he see that there was a quid pro quo going on? The answer is no. He could not prove anything. All that he wanted to do was stir the pot. So the Democrats used it for the best of their ability. Now, let's say one more thing. Now, if you look at Warren and Sanders and all of these politicians, Pelosi have come out, why it's a disgrace. Here's the issue. There's always an issue to everything, isn't there? It becomes so boring after a while. But here is really the problem. Vidman did not lose a job. He's still working for, I believe he's in Army, so he's still in the military. He still has a job. He's still getting his benefits. He's getting his pension. He's getting his medical. Nothing has hurt him at all. The only thing that has hurt him is his reputation, but he caused that. So he was walked out of the White House with security last night, making sure that he's not taking anything. And that happens every time that you fire someone. Somebody should go to that office, watch them pack their stuff, and let them and walk them out of the building. It happens every single day in every common job across this nation. Every major corporation has that same policy. Security will go into your office and say, "I'm sorry, but you've got to leave. Here's a box, pack it. Let me review it before you take it so there's no trade secrets or anything else in there," and off they go. They're not handcuffed, nothing. It's just a security precaution, so there's no big deal. So when you listen to the Democrats trying to spin this, it's a bunch of nonsense and they know it. Okay? Those that are pro-Vidman are pro-anti-Trump. So just remember that situation. Vidman is anti-Trump. So we have a whole bunch of individuals in the White House that are very sneaky people. They're leaking stuff. They're conniving with other people. So you have to remember that the president has the right to hire and fire anybody that he wants to. Now, Vidman is leaving the White House, but he's going over to another section of the Army and he'll work there. Maybe he'll work in janitorial because I understand he's not very well liked. He put a bad name on the Army, so he has an issue. He has a problem, but that problem is his. It's not the president's. The president did the right thing by letting him go. He couldn't let him go at the very beginning when he found out the individual because there was an investigation going on. Anytime, even in a corporation or a business, anytime there's an investigation going on, you cannot let that individual go. But after the investigation, and after everything's over, and after the acquittal is done, Vidman could be fired from the White House. But he's not fired from his job in the Army. No, that keeps going on. He still gets to wear all of those medals, all of those ribbons. He still gets to maybe even drive in an Army car. I don't know what he gets. I don't know. But he has a nice uniform. And he still gets the title of whatever his rank is. But don't pay too much attention to what the Democrats and politicians are saying, or even what Mr. Vidman says, or even what his attorney says. Now, his attorney is defending him, of course, that's his job, but he's misleading you. Okay, he was not fired. He was let go from the White House security staff, national security staff, but he's going to have the same job in the military, and he's going to be doing his work. Nothing bad has happened to him. Financially, he is set for life. So that is a problem with politics, is that when one side is incompletely wrong, they only give you bits and pieces of the story. And they try to make you feel, oh, so sorry for this individual. But in any business, in any corporation, this is going to happen. I'm going to tell you, not that long ago, but a few years back, I was doing some consulting work for a semiconductor company out of San Diego. And they hired me to go in to do the consolidated reporting. In other words, they had manufacturing plants all over the world, and they needed to bring all those numbers from all over the world and get one single report called a consolidated financial report so that we could tell what's going on worldwide. So I went over to China and Hong Kong, Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore. It was all during the end of year process. I was the only single guy, so I went while the other family members could stay home with their families. So I traveled and I met with all the auditors, and we got everything all lined up and ready to go for the year-end SEC filing and audit. We hired this controller. And when we hired the controller, I really appreciate the CFO of that company because he let several of us interview this controller. And so we all did. There were 3 of us that interviewed him, the CFO, the financial analyst, and myself, who was putting together the consolidated reporting process. And when I interviewed, I said, nah, I don't like this guy. I don't think that he is the right fit for this company. I just don't see it. And the analyst said, yeah, I feel the same way. But the CFO decided, which is okay because he's in charge, he decided to hire the individual. So we sent him off to Hong Kong, where our business office was, that monitored the sales and also the manufacturing of what was over in China, in mainland China. The first week he got there, he went in, took over the president's office of Asia Division. He took over his office. He offended a whole bunch of people within the office. He did nothing. He did no work whatsoever. And then when he got back, he did no work whatsoever. When he got back to the United States to work with the rest of the team, he absolutely did nothing. And he tried not to do anything. But he would walk around, but he did nothing. And people were really complaining because he was also kind of this chauvinist pig that just spouted out anything about women and everything else. And so he was offending the majority of the women in the office. I think there was about 50 people that we had in that office. Now, I was lucky because I was not an employee, but what's really good about being a consultant is that you can say whatever you want to say and be blunt, honest, and use my blunt force and my words and what I want to say. And they're not going to come after me because I don't have to play politics. And I like that part. So finally, I went into the CFO's office and I said, we need to sit down and talk. And I said, we can't have this guy any longer. He's just is not fitting in with the group, and he is saying too many things, and he's done too many things that have offended too many people, and he's doing no work. So I said, Mike, okay, let me think about it in the next couple of days. So I had to have a year-end audit meeting where I brought all of the accountants into one room and said, okay, this is what we need to do to close out our books in a certain amount of time. And we were going over and through that process. And the controller was sitting there. He was nodding his head and everything else. So all of a sudden there was a knock at the door of the conference room, and the CFO popped in. He says, hey, controller. I'm not mentioning names here because I just don't do that. Controller, okay, I see you for a little bit. And so the controller went with the CFO, and they went to the little office. A few minutes later, the CFO came in to the conference room, and he said, the controller will no longer be joining you. And so I nodded and I looked out the door, and there were 2 security guards that were over at his desk with the controller, picking up all of his stuff, and off he went. He was gone. But what made me feel bad about it is that he waved at me as he was going out the door. But these things happen in the corporate world. When you fail at your job, when you don't do what is expected of you, when you go against the grain, when you fail at being an effective CFO or effective controller or a military person that is supposed to follow the direction of leadership, and they go off onto their own little world, then you have a problem and they have to go. Because when you have one person out of line like that, now, we want to hear your suggestions. There's nothing wrong with that. When we're sitting there and we're trying to organize things, we want to hear your suggestions. And we're going to take them. We're going to take some. We're going to leave some at the door. That's how it works. And that's how it works in the White House. Vidman wrote up his report, sent it to the president's office to use as a talking point with the president of Ukraine. And the president did not follow his talking points and went and talked to the president on his own terms. And Vidman was upset. The president didn't listen. He didn't follow what I wanted. So he got upset. So what does he do? He runs off to the attorney's office. He didn't go to his boss. He didn't even go to the president, who is his ultimate boss, and say, listen, I have a problem. What happened? Let's talk about it. No. He goes off to an attorney because he wanted to stir the pot and he wanted to make things miserable for the president. And that's what he did. So he was let go from the national security team. Still has a job, just with the army. But this is a problem when you have people that want to go off into their own world. It does not turn out good for these people. It happens in the corporate world. It happens in business. It happens everywhere. When you have an individual that wants to go against everybody, and especially against the president. Sorry, Mr. Vidman. Your services are no longer needed here. We wish you luck in the army. You still have that job. But here at the White House, you're no longer needed. And that's what happened. Do not become political with this. Do not. Because this has nothing to do with politics. Now, Pelosi and Schumer and Warren and whoever else is going to spin this so it becomes politics. And they're using it to their advantage. Remember, that's what politicians do. They never tell you the truth. Never. So don't worry about the political spin because it's nonsense. Examine what I just said. And you know what happens out there in the real world. You guys are out in the corporate world. You know what's happening. And you know that when an individual does not perform his job or who does not exceed at his job, they are asked to leave because they're no longer adding value to the team. And Mr. Vidman offered no further value to the White House team. I know it's sad. It happens. This type of issue happens within almost every company across this world. And people are asked to leave. Now, in Mr. Vidman's case, he was asked to leave, but he did not lose his job. He's still getting his pay. He's still getting his vacation time. He's still getting his insurance. He's still getting his life insurance. He's still getting his whatever other benefit that the Army provides a military officer. He still gets it. He never lost it. He's just not working at the White House. He was no longer valued there because of the actions and the words that he has taken. I tell you, when we get into politics becomes so dirty, isn't it? And you really have to, and I encourage every single one of you, when you're listening to all of these politicians out there, when they're campaigning for office, listen very carefully. Because what they're telling you is a bunch of mixed messages that are complete falsifications. Last night, Democratic debate. Sanders gets up and says, yes, in the energy business, we are going to take away jobs. We're going to take away. But we're going to create new jobs. But he didn't today say how he was going to create new jobs. In fact, I don't even believe that he can create new jobs. He's never created a job in his life. He's never run a company. He's never run a division. He's never done anything. All that he has been is a socialist politician who do not believe in creating jobs. They do not believe in business. They do not believe in the economy. They do not believe in capitalism. They do not believe in self-reliance. So when he says he's going to create jobs, do not believe him, because he's never done it in his life. He has never accomplished that part of life of creating jobs. Same thing with Warren. She has never created a job in her life. Never. Never. She has never accomplished anything as a role as a senator. Nothing. In her government job, she has done nothing. In fact, everything she did in a government job, the whole department was shut down because it was so badly created, so badly run. So when you hear of people spouting off all of these promises, you've got to challenge it. And the way that you challenge it is by looking at, what have you done? That's the question that you always ask. What have been your accomplishments? If you have none, you're certainly not going to do what you say you're going to do as President of the United States. So when we're looking at words that are spinning and spinning and spinning every single day, and you hear the same thing day after day, but you hear no solid facts of how they're going to do that spin, it will become a spin in their jobs in the presidency. If you have never done anything, you're not going to be able to do anything for the Americans that voted for you. And when you are taking every single group out there, every single American out there, the gay community, the transvestite community, the women's community, I don't know. I've been watching Warren. I think she's almost hit every single group out there. And she's made a promise to every single group. When you see people making promises to every single group, at some point in time, they're going to collapse and they're going to butt heads. You cannot make promises like that. I will do this. I will do that. Yesterday, I will put more money. Last night, she said, Warren, I'm talking about, I will put more money in education. I will put more money in this. I will put more money in that. I will put more money, more money, more money, more money, more money. That's all that she said. But she didn't identify any of the problems what she's throwing money at. This is the other thing about politicians. They love to throw money at things because they think that is what solves issues or problems or conflicts. It isn't. You have to look at every single issue and look at the problem and look at the conflict and what is the problem and what is the solution. And it may not even be money. I will put more money in education. I will do this. I will do that. I will put money here, money there, money over there, money up there in the tower clock. I'll put it over there and behind that car. I'll put money. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. What is the problem of education? There's a whole bunch of them. But she doesn't address the problems. Or she doesn't say, okay, each state is different. Each state has a different requirement. Each state has a different set of goals and objectives. Let's give it back to the state and let them do what they do best because they know what their people need. The federal government doesn't know what Arkansas children need. They don't know what Idaho children need. They don't know what California children need. They don't know anything. At the federal level, they do not know. Because everything changes within every single one of these communities. So why not let Arkansas handle their own education and look at the issues that are affecting their schools and their students there? That is what needs to happen. But throwing money at something, I'm telling you, isn't going to work. Look at California. California does tries to find any which way that they can to say that they're putting money towards education, but it never goes towards education. It goes to other programs. We raised $12 million off of lottery. But it's not going to education. It's going to something else. That's just a trick they pull. We're going to put this money over here. But the states, do they use it for that? No. It gets used for something else. So I just don't get why people follow people or vote for people who make all of these promises that they don't know what the issues, they don't know what the problems are, but they just want to throw money at something. I don't like it when politicians are continually spinning. Yes, I'll be the first one to admit sometimes Trump spins. Sometimes his staff spins. But let me tell you, politicians who are running for president, especially in the Democratic Party, are spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And it goes on and on. And people are over there nodding their head. And they're waving these signs. And they're putting their thumbs up thing. And they're so happy and everything. I read an article this morning. Gosh, was it in the Wall Street Journal? I can't remember where it was. But they were saying that people were not going to... The young people that were going to Bernie Sanders are the individuals who have purple hair and they have rings through their nose. I don't know where they got this information, but that's what they were saying in this article. And they were not there going to support or make a decision to support Sanders. They were going there because of all of the things that he was saying. And they liked all those things. But when you ask them, are you going there to support and are you going to vote for Sanders, they would not commit. So, you see what I'm saying is that you have to be very focused on words. Words, accomplishments, and what they say they can do that makes common sense. If it passed a common sense muster, great. But if they're offering free education, they're going to wipe out all this student loan debt. Does that make common sense to you that they can do that and wipe out trillions of dollars of debt? But you see, when they're talking to you about that, you have to ask other questions. What happens to the debt? So let's say you are a student. And let's say they wipe out $10,000 of debt. Do you understand that $10,000 becomes income to you? I want you to refer back to when we had this huge home mortgage crisis. And they were forgiving debt on home loans. That became income to that individual who got their debt wiped out. Or a portion of it forgiven. the same principle, because that's the IRS code, that will mandate if you have $10,000 of student loan debt and they wipe out that $10,000, that's going to become income to you. So get it through your head. There's always another side of that story. And by the way, not only does it become income to you, but the American people have to eat it in the shorts, because they put all that money into in taxes, and a portion of it went over to government funding for student loans, and now it's all gone. It's wiped out because of a politician. Became income to you, got wiped out to a taxpayer. Think about what is being said. Use some common sense. What happens when debt gets written out? It becomes income to you. Don't be fooled by these politicians. So, as you're listening to the news today, or you're twittering, or you're whatever social media venue that you use to get your information, question the statement. When they say Vidman was fired and lost his job, no, he wasn't fired. He was asked to leave that position. But he has another position to go to in the Army. He's still an officer. When you hear people saying they're going to give away free stuff, question it. Does it make common sense? And what are the repercussions of that? When people say, I'm going to throw more money at education, well, use a common sense question. What is the problem? Is there another way that you can address it? Is there another way that you can look at it and say, we can do this or we can do that? But we don't need to throw money at it. Billions and trillions of dollars are sent to education, and what are we getting for it? What are we getting for it? Gosh, I have had individuals that I have hired and left in one day because they felt the job was too hard. Individuals fresh out of school. I gave them their first job, and they felt the job was just too hard. They weren't willing to stay around to see if they can be trained to do that job. It was just too hard. And that's the problem with Americans today. If it's too hard, they don't even want to do it. They don't want to attempt it. They don't even want to try it. They don't even want to look at the possibilities or the opportunities. They just want to give up. And we can't do that anymore because, my gosh, people, we are Americans. We stand up and we get things done. I was so pissed off the other day at AOC. And she made that statement, and it was the dumbest political argument ever. She says, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. Why am I having a hard time talking this morning? Pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is ridiculous. It's impossible to do. You can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps. That's how she thinks. How stupid. She didn't even think to look at what the true meaning was. Back in the old days, when people put on their boots or their shoes, they had straps on the side or on the back, and they pulled it up and put it on. And then they got up and they did something. So they were sitting there, they put their boot on, they had a strap, and they pulled up onto their foot because they were tight. And then they stood up and they went out and they worked, they did something, they accomplished something. That's why that term came about. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get going, do something. But what she did, she took that phrase and she turned it around and attacked somebody with it. I want you to listen very closely to the words that these people are saying, because they don't even get even close to common sense. They don't even make sense. So I have ranted and raved here for a while. And I don't mean to, but it's one of these situations where it just frustrates me down to the core of my bones. Because I see people not thinking about what politicians are saying. And it needs to happen more and more every single day. You and I have got to become better at it. We've got to become better at the art of listening. When I mediate with people, I have to teach them how to listen. Listen to what the other individual is saying. We're not doing that. America has stopped. We have become followers and we're not leaders anymore. The American people, there are people out there who just want to follow. They want to have somebody to believe in that they feel is right and they feel is going to take all of their student debt away and going to take away all of this other nonsense away. But they never ask the question, what this person is promising me, is it doable? If it's not doable, why even listen? Why even listen to somebody who's giving you a bunch of bull? And they keep piling onto that pile of bull. So I want you to go out today and I really want you to think. Buy a book about listening. Do something that enhances your listening powers. Because we are being fed a bunch of nonsense every single day. Open your ears. And then I want you to open your mouth and say, no, you're wrong. That will never work. If you have any comments, I want to listen to them. Send me a text at 818-252-5682. 818-252-5682. And let's start a dialogue. Ask me a question, and then we'll come up with a common sense question to you back. What have you heard and what research have you looked at? Use some common sense. We're Americans. We're really good at that. We used to be so good at it, I tell you. We could weed out all of this nonsense. But the problem is that we are being bombarded every single day on cable television news networks with nothing but nonsense. And these politicians get in front of these cable news networks and they spin it and spin it and spin it. But it's up to us to ask the question, does that make common sense? Does it make any sense at all? Send me a text at 818-252-5682. Everyone go out and have a great day. This is Mike Lodge. I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.